Welcome to Sapere aude, Dare to Know. The series of podcasts for those people eager, willing to know things, new things and things that are not so new. Today we will be speaking about music, but not only music. We'll speak music through life. And for that we have with us the incredible, amazing Rachel Flowers. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm fine and very happy to talk to you because it's been a long time since we last had this kind of sessions. Do you remember? I think it was over 11 years ago. We used to speak a lot and speak about music, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk to you again after all these years. I would, in this series of podcasts, there's always a question I ask my guests about themselves. So if I have to ask you who you are, what would you say? Who is Rachel Flowers?
So I was born 15 weeks premature, which I had this thing called retinopathy of prematurity, and that left me completely blind. I started playing the piano when I was about 2.5. Took some classical piano lessons at the age of 4 at this event called the Southern California Conservatory of Music, which is no longer around. But I took a lot of classical piano lessons from teachers like Grant Horrocks, Barbara Schneiderman, David Pinto, who also taught me how to record music at the time when I was using Windows computers with a screen reader called JAWS. And then when I was about 10 or 11, I started taking flute lessons, mostly classical flute, and then started getting into jazz music. And I think when I was about 18 or 19 was when I started teaching myself how to play the guitar, and just started when I was about 16. I made these YouTube videos that my mom posted of piano renditions of progressive rock, specifically Emerson, Lake and Palmer tunes, and got some notoriety from both Keith Emerson and Greg Lake, who I miss a lot. And I think around that same time, we were doing a lot of these wild videos together. One of them was myself on the keyboard playing Joe Satriani's "Flying in a Blue Dream."
Exactly. Great rendition on a keyboard of the guitar.
Thanks. That's one of my favorite guitar pieces.
Yeah. So, and as I said before, it's been a while. And I remember it's already over 11 years when I was in California, just the very year you turned 18.
Wow.
So it's a long time ago, as you can see. So that's why I'm very happy to talk to you again. And
Me too.
One of the things I'd love to do is to play something for you. Just pay attention.
Cool. Start off quietly as the piano takes me away, singing a song of beauty and that I'm okay. Waves are slowly rising to a crescendo. As the strings come to me, I start to believe that this is only a dream. Enter the band, and I know that I'm at peace. Struck by the sound, I forgot that I'm released. The rhythm I hear gives me power, a slow dance to catch the hour. Heavenly choirs, a carol on tower. I don't think you hear it just yet.
I could be listening to it for a long time, I guess. Rachel, tell us what this song is about and why you wrote this song.
Yeah, so I called this piece Mellow Song. This recording, for those of you for the people out there that might not know, there's a YouTube channel called Highlands Jam?
Highlands Jam, exactly.
Yeah, Highlands Jam. And I go to this studio. Well, there's a lot of artists that go to this recording studio, and there's this grand piano. They get sometimes you get bands, sometimes there will just be a solo artist on the guitar. And they would perform, they would record live renditions of original compositions. And it was really exciting to finally find some way to, perform a lot of original tunes, just piano, or other times piano and voice, and would love to do it again. It's a really nice place. And one of the guys' names is John Pratt. I think that's his name. But yeah, it was really cool. But I wrote this song. So for a long time, I've been composing music. I really started writing music around um, probably like 2012. So right around the time um, when the world lost Deep Purple's organ player, John Lord.
Oh, wow. John Lord. I loved
Yeah.
his Hammond playing. Incredible.
Yes. And the way that he put his organ through a Marshall stacks.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And for when I started composing music using this really old technology, I still do use old technology. I'm hoping to upgrade and switch to the Mac computer and use VoiceOver and then a control surface, so I could finally use accessible sound libraries. Finally, there's one of my friends, his name is Matthew Whitaker, and he's an amazing piano player. He's mainly a gospel jazz pianist, but he's an organ player. And but anyway, so for I have 3 albums of original music. The first one is called Listen, which came out in 2016, like the end of 2016. And that was when I was writing very instrumental driven jazz meets classical, very much in sort of like the Pat Metheny group meets Mahavishnu Orchestra, not so much the Mahavishnu Orchestra, Jaco Pastorius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bass
So a
player.
lot of Weather Report. So it's very cinematic stuff. And then my second album, Going Somewhere, that was the start of me writing my own lyrics using a laptop to find a way to type lyrics. And that was when I was getting into my Prince phase. So on SoundCloud, I have my mom post audio recordings that I do all by myself in my bedroom studio, um, up on SoundCloud
Mm-hmm.
of covers. So I like to keep things separate. So the covers I like to do as an exercise to not only study the songwriting, but also the sonics of the recording. So, like a song like Let's Go Crazy by Prince, I would not only focus on the music, but
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to the album and I would be like, okay, how much reverb is on that snare drum, and how close am I to recreating it exactly like the record at that time. Um, but anyway, and then I make this rocking album called Bigger on the Inside,
Mm-hmm.
which I think that's my favorite when it comes to compositions, because that's when I really started tapping into more guitar driven compositions, a lot of organ moments on there as well. And then right around the time I was finishing the final mixing of Bigger on the Inside at was it the start of last year,
Mm-hmm.
I had this dream about Amy Winehouse, and knowing her tragic story. In this dream that I had, she lived a completely different life from what what her real life was sadly like. And one of the things that she talked about that never got a chance was she wanted to form a supergroup because she was really into traditional jazz, like 1950s. I'm guessing 1950s jazz because she was a big fan of, which, and it's ironic. Once I started really diving into these singers, Dinah Washington and Tony Bennett, those were like her favorite. Sarah Vaughan was another
Mm-hmm.
one. Uh, Ella Fitzgerald, a lot of those classic singers. Once I really started listening to Dinah Washington and Frank Sinatra, that allowed me to make my own version of what my Amy Winehouse dream was.
Uh-huh.
In the dream, in the dream, she got to fulfill this supergroup idea with the Roots drummer Questlove,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and it's a real shame that it never got around in real life because they talked about it and her people just didn't listen to her demands, and in the dream she didn't. It's hard for me to talk about it, but basically in the dream, she lives a completely sober life. She
Right.
actually could sing the Sarah Vaughan high notes. She could
Mm-hmm.
actually she she sang as clear as Dinah Washington and
Right.
Frank Sinatra.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
then listening to a bunch of Dinah, and I learned a whole lot about vibrato, like jazz vibrato, when it comes to singing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I immediately, after I had that dream, I wrote about it in emails to a lot of my close friends. And then I started composing a lot of the songs, wrote down the lyrics. Um, and this was this was one of the songs
Yeah.
that sort of popped in my brain, like it just came out of my brain. That's like, so I wanted to make my own version of Halftime, which is off of the posthumous Winehouse album called Lioness Hidden Treasures.
Right.
Yeah, but I wanted to make something that would be like, picture if you had a jazz singer in the mindset of a Frank Sinatra, Dinah Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, and you also had like the band in kind of a hip hop, neo soul, R&B feel. Like I'm thinking D'Angelo, the stuff that he did with Questlove. Um, a good example would be the album Voodoo, which
Mm-hmm.
was really the peak of the neo soul movement. Neo soul was during a time where in the 1990s R&B was very fully produced with a lot of people making beats, and they used the electronic instruments. And so you had this other movement that wanted to really recreate a lot of the classic 1970s records that they grew up listening to from people like Marvin Gaye or James Brown
Yeah.
or Curtis Mayfield and Smokey Robinson, just, I mean, just Aretha Franklin, just all these classic records. And they had Questlove of the Roots. They were called the Soulquarians, and it was this hip hop collective where you had people like Jay Dilla, who was a famous hip hop producer, um, Questlove, of course. You had Pino Palladino on bass, who would later go on to be in The Who after the
Mm-hmm.
tragic passing of their original bassist, John Entwistle. He's also the bassist for John Mayer's trio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like going through the history of people, but you had these singers like D'Angelo, Maxwell, Lauryn Hill, Erica Badu, especially because she has a bit of that jazz background. So,
Right.
but it's just a blast getting to make my own version of these crazy dreams that I've been having, and
Mm-hmm.
challenge myself, which is really cool. So,
Rachel, could
mhm.
you imagine your life without music?
Mm. Without music, that would be kind of strange.
Because uh, if there is a person I've seen enjoying music fully, this person is you. I remember when you were much younger. Like if someone would see you play, immediately you could say, "Oh, great, she's having a lot of fun out of it. I mean, she's really enjoying it." And you are the one I've really seen enjoying music. It's really,
Thanks.
really, really fantastic. I haven't said it yet, but thanks to technology, we
Yeah.
are speaking now because you are in California, thousands of kilometers away from where I am. I am in Madrid, in Spain. You are in
Spain.
Oxnard, in California. So a great distance. However, it's like if we were face to face, which I really love it. I really love it. Um, as
Mhm.
I mentioned before that the last time we see each other, and when I say see, you are blind, you can't see, but you have a different way of seeing people, and your
Mhm.
perception is incredible. But last time
Yeah.
we met, uh, I mean face to face, was
Mhm.
11 years ago. And in
Wow.
all these years, over all these years, there have been a lot of things going on. Back
Yeah.
then, you used to play covers of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. At that time,
Mhm.
Keith Emerson was still alive. You
Yeah.
were you were going to play with him. Sadly, he passed away, and so there are a lot of things and a lot of people we knew. Uh,
Mhm.
they are not they are no longer with us. So
Yeah.
could you just speak about all over these years what's been going on in your life? How has it changed from that time when you were 18 to now?
Mm. Oh, wow, yeah. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was when I was covering those tunes by ELP, and like for it's interesting because around that time my brain kept thinking you know, I hadn't really done much composing yet, and I was like, well, I'm gonna I'm hoping to find a band where I could do some ELP repertoire, and it hadn't really happened at that time. So uh, I started composing stuff that some of it originated from dreams, which is often the case for a lot of my compositions.
One question. Sorry to interrupt you,
Mhm.
but I'm curious about it. When
Mhm.
you dream, do you
Mhm.
dream in musical terms, or what are your dreams about? Is it sounds? Is it what is it? What are your dreams about? I mean, or the way you
Oh,
perceive your dreams?
mm. Yeah. So when I'm having these dreams, I'm always hearing music. It's it feels a lot like reality. Um, like I could still remember the music that's being played, or like one dream I sat down at a really nice Steinway piano, and Herbie Hancock, one of my jazz heroes as a pianist, uh, in the dream, because I actually got to play for him when I was about 13, uh, performing the tune Dolphin Dance, and he was really impressed because out of all the people that interpret this piece, it's off of an album called Maiden Voyage,
Hmm.
and 1960s era acoustic piano, Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, George Coleman on tenor saxophone, Ron Carter on bass, and Tony Williams on drums. So this classic lineup of the time. And I had listened to that particular recording of Maiden Voyage because I wanted to get the harmonies right. So when I played it for Herbie, he could tell that I had really studied the record, and he was like, "You're the first person to get this one chord right." That was really cool. So anyway, going back to this
Yeah.
particular, yeah, this time I'm having this dream where Herbie sits me down on this nice Steinway piano, and it was a concert hall, and I'm like, let me just make up something in a key that I've never written songs in. So I start playing this very quiet idea, which turns out to be the beginning of Conversations off of my Listen album. And when I woke up, I instantly finished composing the song on the piano in the living room at the house, and we just made a voice memo of it using a different machine. This was before the iPhone became a recording device for me to get ideas out. But at this time, I was just excited to finally record all these little dream stuff that I heard, and in a lot of dreams, uh, they're so real. Sometimes I wish they were actually real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A very stupid question. Sometimes we are stupid, but I have to ask you this. Is there any instrument you can't play?
um,
Because
any
you play
brass,
you play lots of instruments.
brass instruments like trumpet, French horn.
But you've tried.
Yeah, I've tried, but yeah, I was at first I was like, well, a trumpet, it's got three keys. Get all this because I've always loved listening. My favorite trumpet players are like uh, Miles Davis, Freddie Hubbard, Ingrid Jensen.
Hmm.
There was this uh, all female big bands called Maiden Voyage, who I got to hear live, and just that experience of hearing an all female big band with trumpets and saxophones and just the entire ensemble. Uh, that experience was cool, and so I was like, I'm going to try the. I'll be curious to try out the trumpet, and being a flute player, the flute it's much more easier. So I try out the trumpet, and the
Hmm.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Because
going to stick to the flute and the saxophone.
because as far as I know, you play drums, you play piano and keyboards, you play flute, you play guitar, you play uh,
Ukulele,
ukulele, you play
bass.
bass guitar. I mean, it's amazing, and most of them are self-taught. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, question: how can you do that? What's
Mm.
is there any secret?
I think the main one is just the muscle memory. Really started when I was doing the classical piano lessons at about 4. I was learning about positioning of the keys, or the positioning, like how close do I have to sit at the piano and have my belly button at the middle C position on a grand piano.
Mhm.
Um, And a lot of these little exercises, like, can you, instead of trying to feel your way to that particular note, try to like visualize it in the brain and go, okay, I think I know. Okay, I'm getting closer to that note. Um, and other times I would just very gently feel my way to the keys when I play notes so that I know exactly where I am. Just the muscle memory. And then with guitar, it's very interesting, you know, thinking a lot about the legacy of Jeff Beck.
Wow, Jeff
Just
Beck, he passed away a couple of
yeah, it's
days ago.
very shocking. I'm
And
thinking
yeah,
my dad introduced me to his music, and so I'm just really thinking about him. I wish I could just give him like plenty of hugs right now because yeah. Uh
he had a very special sound. I mean, immediately you could say
mhm.
it was him playing. I mean,
Recognizable,
yeah, it
yes.
was
The way that he used the whammy bar
yeah,
to like a singer, like, and he loved collaborating with singers, like especially women like Imogene Heap, Joss
yes,
Stone, like the Ronnie Scott's concert with Tal Wilkenfield on bass. And
yeah, great
yeah,
bass player, by the way.
yeah, it's really awesome. But yeah, when I started teaching myself the guitar, I remember, I actually remember BB King one time. It was at a Herbie Hancock concert, and BB King gave me this guitar pick, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And this was before I actually started wanting to teach myself the guitar, but that was pretty wild. And but I started playing the classical guitar, my mom's nylon guitar, which wasn't really big enough for the type of stuff I was getting into. Jose Feliciano at the time.
Hmm.
So listening to his live rendition of Light My Fire and California Dreaming. Uh, so I so I was listening to Jose Feliciano to get me started, and his performance on Live at Daryl's House with Daryl Hall
Yeah,
was really
it's
really cool.
it's
Yeah.
it sounds a bit strange to me when you say,
Mhm.
"Well, I was teaching myself guitar," because
Mhm.
when someone sees the result, I
Mhm.
mean, because you're a virtuoso. I mean, it's not that you play just chords and accompany or rhythm guitar. Is because I've seen in over these last 10 years, I've
Mhm.
seen in the distance from Spain, I've seen some
Mhm.
videos of you playing guitar. I think one of the highlight moments was when you played with Duizel Zappa.
Mhm.
Uh,
Montana.
yeah, yeah, Montana,
Yeah.
exactly. And if someone would see that video and someone would see you play, I mean,
Mhm.
they would say, "How is that possible to be self-taught and play that amazingly? I mean, incredible, out of this planet." I would say because it was incredible, and with the fingers,
Right.
not with the pick.
All with the fingers. All with the fingers.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
why
And it
why
really
why why did you prefer to use the fingers and not the pick?
I prefer the fingers, well, not just because, my dad told me about Jeff Beck, and also, I was thinking about people like Alan Morse of Spock's Beard, who I got to meet at a Rio Akimoto concert last year, which was really cool. Uh,
Hmm.
he's the keyboard player in Spock's Beard, but Alan Morse is the guitar player for those that might not know. Um, they were sort of really the start of the progressive rock revival in the 1990s, and keeping that music alive by incorporating not only influences of the 1970s, but adapting some more pop driven, catchy sounds. And but I think I chose to use my fingers because I could feel uh, the strings,
Hmm.
because with a pick I can't feel, I don't know where I am.
I
Am I
understand.
approaching the E string, the B string, the G string?
Right.
uh, and then also once I started teaching myself, well, my dad gave me the basics on the positioning of scales, and then just like that, I was like, okay, cool, and
I got it.
figured it out. Yeah, I got it. And then I was listening to John Petrucci of Dream Theater break down scales, and I was just like figuring out with my own approach. Uh, and then playing the Jaco Pastorius repertoire, which is up on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Stuff like Portrait of Tracy. What's that one? Continuum. Uh,
Mhm.
uh,
And
it was mainly just finding the best when I was doing that performance with Dweezil at that time. I was still figuring out how to mute the strings that aren't being played. I was using my pointer finger at the time, and I was like, there has to be some extra ways to get to expand, because I wasn't quite thrilled with the limitation on which finger I wanted to rest the unplayed strings.
right.
So I was like, okay, let me challenge myself and play some Fish, the jam band. So okay, I'm going to play Divided Sky, and there's this one moment in the song where I was like, okay, it centers mainly around the G, B, and E strings. Okay, I'm going to rest my thumb on the bottom strings, the E, A, D. I'm going to put one finger on the G string, one finger on the B string, one finger on the E string. And then just like that, I was able to find the method that works best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up just being a real blast getting to play the guitar and find my unique
Yeah.
approach.
And
And on bigger on the inside, in a track like With You, that's probably one of my favorites, because I wanted to really demonstrate the guitar approach, and that was played on a Marblehead guitar, which was built by a friend of mine. His name is Matt Valonian,
mhm.
and he was a guitar builder, and he made these smaller guitars for himself because he and I were kind of short. So when it comes to playing normal guitars, they're really gigantic. So right around my 20th or 21st birthday, around that time, Matt was like, I'm okay, I'm going to see if you could try out this guitar that I built. So I was like, okay. And I instantly was like, okay, I was really happy. So he's like, I'm going to build you a guitar like that. So that's become one of my go to electric guitars. And I still use it. I used it on my Elton John cover, Benny and the Jets, which is on
Mm-hmm.
SoundCloud. Um, it's just fun.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
instrument? What instrument do you feel more you, more yourself, or more comfortable with?
Um, it really it depends. If I'm if I want to compose something that's very full sounding, it'll often be the piano or anything keyboard related. But if I want to compose something specifically for the guitar or an idea for the guitar, sometimes I would just imagine it with my fingers. Like I would already know where to put my hands on the fretboard, and I would work it out. I would be recording it, and I would be working it out as I'm recording. So it's a lot of it is in the moment. And
Mhm.
Going Somewhere was one of the rare songs that was written entirely on guitar. The nylon guitar that my friend Brian from Seattle
Right.
gave me. Well, we went to Guitar Center at the time. He's really the guy that set me up for audio recording, that allowed me to record my Frank Zappa covers and then my
Uh-huh.
albums so far. And
Right.
yeah.
You are a person who's listened to loads of music, any genre, from Renaissance, Baroque, classical, romantic, jazz, heavy metal, rock,
Mm.
pop. So lots of music.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if you would have to say uh, what kind of music at the moment in your life you feel
Mm.
more close to, what would you say?
Mm. That's tricky because it that's so tricky. I would say for vocals right now, it's really more classic jazz from singers like Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett. Um, and I'm starting to make some albums in spot, well, albums of all original compositions, imagining the stylings of a Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington jazz singing style with a hip hop style of D'Angelo. But some songs are going to be straight jazz. Some songs are going to be a mixture of like a Steely Dan esque kind of a feel. I'm actually waiting for 3 tracks to have live horn players. I still don't know when that's going to happen. I want to finish this album this year
Mhm.
because I started it right around 2021.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right.
but it's, I would say that the classic jazz stuff is what's my favorite. Uh, but then when it comes to guitar, it's really, I don't know. It's so weird because I would be writing these jazz tunes and then I would go, okay, I'm going to write something in the rock feel,
Mhm.
like I'm thinking like Elton John meets Tom Petty meets Steven Wilson.
Right.
There's always going to be a hint of jazz
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going to name some musicians, and I'd like you
Mm-hmm.
to say something about them shortly. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Johann Sebastian Bach.
Ah, yeah, he Johann Sebastian Bach. He was sort of like the writer of chorales and fugues, like a musical version of a crazy conversation. One person starts an idea, the next person jumps in, and then another person jumps in, and then it becomes this gigantic
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Really, really wild
Right.
stuff.
Another one. Here we go. Schubert.
Mm, Schubert. I haven't really studied much Schubert. I think Ave Maria is probably his
Mm-hmm.
best known. That's like a really, really romantic, hymn driven. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brahms. Johannes Brahms.
Brahms. He's like, when it comes to melodies and harmony, uh, drama, like his first symphony, the last movement is my absolute favorite.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Prokofiev.
Prokofiev. I love how he surprises you. Like it's like almost comic.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Sho-
Like Peter and the Wolf and Lieutenant Kiji's
yeah.
Suite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
classics. Yeah.
Shostakovich.
Shostakovich.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, that's. I have to really study him. I've heard about him. Tantrical. He's a YouTuber that I love to check out.
Mm-hmm.
But he did this video on how he found some way to compose music and give it kind of a double meaning based on what was going on at the time. Like because of the fear of what was happening, he had to figure out
Mm-hmm.
a different way to express all the chaos in his time and
Mm-hmm.
do it in a way that wouldn't interfere. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Okay. John Lord. We mentioned it before.
Yeah, John Lord. He was, how do I say it? The way that he made the Hammond organ compete with Richie Blackmore's guitar playing, like like a duel.
Hmm. Steve Morse.
Steve Morse.
Yeah,
Oh wow. How do I describe him? That's tricky.
it's tricky because he plays everything. I don't know how to.
I I love his playing on. There's a Mahavishnu tribute album that my
Hmm.
friend Paul participated in terms of the mixing, I think. And Steve Morse plays on one of the songs, and it's this really cool shred meets melodic sound. It's really clean in the way that he does it. I don't. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. And now we've already mentioned him before, Jeff Beck.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Um, Jeff Beck. He's one of he's like one of the few guitar players that played the guitar beyond the tradition of uh, the electric guitar. I think both he and Jimi Hendrix, they took the guitar to musical levels that are still hopefully are going to still be explored. Like a singer like Jeff Beck had that vocal quality in his playing, the way that he used the whammy bar, and
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Is there any guitar player you'd like to play with?
Oh wow. Man, any guitar player I would like to play with? I don't know his name. The guitarist that plays on Esperanza Spalding's latest, more rock-driven albums. She's a Grammy-winning bass player and singer.
Uh huh.
But her latest albums, like her first albums, were very jazz oriented, and then she did the fusion thing, and then she did the sort of the prog type stuff. And the guitar player on that's
Hmm.
the type of guitar player. It's very uh, orchestral in the delivery of notes and
Right.
finding the right time to get flashy when it's necessary.
Hmm. Rachel, there is a fixed section in these series of programs of episodes of Sapere aude,
Mm.
and one of the questions I've always asked my guests
Mm.
is if you would have to recommend a book to read, what would you
Mm.
say?
A book to read?
Yeah.
Um, I haven't really read much books. Uh, there was one that I used to read a long time ago. I don't know the title of it. Uh, it was about this mermaid. Her name was Malin. I forgot the name of it,
Uh huh.
but
It's
I
very
really
strange
liked
because you
it a
have a
lot.
prodigious memory.
Yeah, it was about this mermaid, and her friend was a dolphin, and I can't remember his Aurora, I think was her name. I don't. James and the Giant Peach was another book that I've
Hmm.
always enjoyed
Hmm.
reading.
Hmm.
Um,
And now this is a tricky one, I have to say. If you would have to recommend some music someone should listen to before passing away, what
oh,
would
yeah.
you say? This is something you can't miss.
Mm, there's so many.
But just one or two, no more. That's
A
why
Love
it's tricky.
Supreme by John. So for jazz, instrumental jazz, A Love Supreme by John Coltrane.
Hmm.
And for sort of a pop rock, that's so tricky.
It is.
Oh wow.
I'm
Songs,
putting you to the test.
yeah. Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears.
Uh huh.
That's got so many classics on there. But my favorite Tears for Fears album is the one after that, Sowing the Seeds of Love. That
Hmm.
is my favorite Tears for Fears album.
Right.
Um,
And now, last, imagine in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, or even 1,000 years' time, someone could listen to your voice, the voice of a woman from the 21st century. What message you would like to leave for that eventual listener?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow. What would be something that I would say? Thinking about my Bigger on the Inside album, I think the main thing that I've always wanted to do as a challenge is having been a huge fan of male-driven bands like the Alan Parsons Project or Ambrosia
Mm-hmm.
or Spock's Beard. I've always felt that women as lead vocalists haven't really been fully explored when it comes to lyrics with a full-on rock sound, and having, myself being a huge fan of soulful singers like Mary J. Blige and Alicia Keys and
Mm-hmm.
Lauryn Hill, and now with jazz, Ella Fitzgerald. I think what I would love to say for someone in the next hundreds of thousands of years or so is not to be afraid to adapt a lot of your favorite influences from whoever it is and just challenge yourself and go for it. If you're imagining an Ella Fitzgerald type jazz singer and you're hearing a rock band that's in the feel of Joe Satriani, just
Mm-hmm.
like what Esperanza's doing, just have some fun with it. And hopefully it's going to get out there in the world.
Great.
So just have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun.
I don't know if you've watched the film The Godfather or
Ah,
heard of
yep.
it. Marlon Brando. I can't impersonate him. So, but he said something like, "I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse."
I'm gonna make
You
an offer you can't refuse.
exactly that's the
Something
one.
like that.
So I'm going to make an offer you can't refuse, Rachel. And this offer is, what do you think about recording some episodes, short episodes, like a mini series out of this program, Live Through Music, talking
Mm.
about the music you like, with the intention to disseminate your passion so that people get, how you call that, get the flavor and the feeling for music and start listening to more music.
Oh, that would be really that I would love to do that. That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
then, so it's done, deal done. So we will
Mhm.
do that. Rachel, I thank you very, very much for our conversation today.
You're
We
welcome.
will keep talking, and we will prepare a
Mhm.
very nice series on music. I know music is very important in your life. So
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Glad we got to do it.